So hello and welcome back to the GorillaBiker, and we are here at Capital Powersports in Mike Forest, and I just got to test ride two bikes at the Yamaha demo day, which we're going to be talking about as we head home. Look at them all, look at all the lovely bikes. I test rode that Tracer 9, and I test rode also the T7 Tenere 700. And they were both very nice, I have to say. The T7, I have to say, right, so to put this into perspective, and apologies about the one camera, I brought the wrong mount to put the Osmo there, but anyway, the T7 was a bike that when I initially moved here, I really kind of wanted over the V-Strom, right? Because it was kind of one of those things that I knew I could buy. But yeah, so anyway, the Ténéré is something that I wanted to buy ages ago when I moved here. Ended up being none in stock anywhere, and I ended up buying obviously the V-Strom used, and love my V-Strom. But you know, there's always that thing at the back of your mind, is like, oh hey, should I have gotten the Ténéré? And you know, I rode it there, and I have to say that it's one of those things that it's like, I'm glad I did this, because you know, it's one of those things that it's like, well, I actually think the V-Strom is a superior road bike, if that makes sense. Like, the V-Strom is so smooth. It has, in my opinion, better brakes, better feeling brakes than the Ténéré. It has, you know, kind of a nicer throttle response. Now, you know, is that due to the fact that the V-Strom has, you know, a different exhaust and everything else? Maybe. But in my opinion, has a nicer throttle response. Has better front suspension from a road perspective just off the bat, because my V-Strom suspension is stock, and also has a slipper clutch, which makes a huge difference on, you know, tarmac. And it does make a big difference. Slipper clutches are, in my opinion, one of the best developments, you know, ever on bikes. They're lovely. So, you know, I think all in all, test riding the Ténéré made me very happy with my purchase on the V-Strom. So and it's kind of nice, you know, to reaffirm these things sometimes, you know, because obviously you do kind of wonder about it on occasion. But you know, this time very happy with my decision, even though at the time, you know, I would have probably been forced into the Ténéré. Oh, by the way, we weren't allowed to take any video on the ride. I don't know why. You'd have to reach out to Yamaha and ask them. I'm sure someone did something stupid on a test ride while recording it, and that ruined it for everyone else. You know, the few ruin it for the many, as is often the case. But yeah, no, really nice ride guide people. Very nice guys. I can't remember their names because I suck at names, but really nice guys. Nice to talk to and whatever else. And you know, there's Capital Powersports. I believe the gentleman's name I was talking to who works there was Corey, lovely guy as well. You know, hope you sell a few bikes today. Obviously will not be to me, because you know, anything I test ride these days, it's gotta beat a few things. Like, if it's just a kind of a road bike like what I'm on right now, just for pootling around, you know, not carrying big luggage and not doing crazy distance, you are going to find it very, very hard to beat this in its current, you know, build. Like, I have the suspension dial for me, I have the tune done, I have the headers done, so it sounds great. The bars are comfortable for me and everything else. So this is like a really good bike for me. Whereas a lot of stock bikes obviously aren't good for me, because you'd have to go doing suspension and everything else. And I feel like that is a lot of what I was feeling on the Tenere 700, is that it is a very nice bike. If I was going to go doing off-road things, I think I would definitely take that over the V-Strom, because obviously it weighs considerably less than the V-Strom, and I feel like it could carry just as much as I ever do carry on the V-Strom. But yeah, right now I think V-Strom is, which I already kind of knew, but the V-Strom is with me until, you know, until it's dead probably, just because it's such a nice bike to ride, and you know, I wouldn't see the value in selling it. Why are you doing this, Infinity driver? Like, are you trying to get me to crash into you? You're just being an asshole on purpose? You're gonna move over? Like, what are you doing? So was the Tenere 700 nice? And I'll put cost and stuff up on screen now. It was the not lowered version, it was the standard version, which is what I wanted to test. Obviously lowered would be stupid for me, and it was a really nice bike. You know, if I was looking for a bike right now, it would definitely play into my, you know, my thought process on whether that was something I wanted to buy. But I think the fact I have the V-Strom, it kind of does everything road based more better, except, you know, obviously the V-Strom is heavier, well, feels heavier anyway. Whether it's actually much heavier on carboy, which I know it is, but I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. But yeah, the V-Strom is definitely a better road bike. It has better manners, it corners that little bit better in my opinion. Now obviously there's probably some bias there, because obviously I've ridden that bike a lot over the years, so I'm very comfortable on it. You know, it is nearly like one of those things that, you know, we're kind of joined at the hip at this point, you know. So that definitely does need to be taken into account, is my kind of innate built-in bias that's gonna be there, just from the fact that I have ridden it for so long. Kind of like this bike, you know, I'm very comfortable on this bike going fast and whatnot, because I've had it on the track several times, and obviously the more you do that, the more comfortable you get. So yeah, so basically the Tenere 700, very glad I got to ride it. I mean, the test course, it's not enough to really comment too much on the bike, but the narrow seat was comfortable for me. The stock suspension was pretty comfortable for me. Front end was a bit bouncy under braking, like a little bit too bouncy. Power delivery was nice, and you know, everything else felt nice. All the controls felt nice and whatnot. There was nothing, you know, nothing that I would be like, oh, I don't like this. You know, everything did feel good. So Tenere 700 gets a thumbs up. Would ride one again. If I had more money and more storage space, I might even buy one, especially if I had more of a use case for it. You know, if I did more kind of light off-roading, I think that would be something that the Tenere would obviously does excel at. And it, you know, you can even kind of tell that's more what it's geared towards, with, you know, lack of slipper clutch and whatever else. It's definitely more aimed at being a kind of a dual sport than the V-Strom is very much more biased towards the road. So yeah, sorry, I skipped the highway riding, just so I didn't think you'd want to listen to the wind noise. But yeah, so basically the Tenere 700, I think, very nice bike. Obviously didn't ride it long enough to give it any form of scoring on anything, but felt pretty comfortable for my size. So again, I'm 6'7", 278 pounds right now. I don't know what that is, like 126 kg, something like that. And then stone's about 20, I don't know. 200 centimeters tall, basically. So if you're someone who is that, I think, you know, that or under, I think the standard Tenere would be very, very comfortable. Definitely would not have any major complaints. And then when we get off this particular main road, we'll talk about the Tracer 9. So I'll talk to you very soon. So the Tracer 9, interesting bike. I'm not a huge fan of the looks, to be honest. I'll put some clips up on screen now that I took on my phone. Yeah, not my favorite looking bike that I have ever seen. But you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so maybe someone else loves it. I really wanted to ride it because it is the Tracer 9 GT Plus, right? So it's literally all the bells and whistles model, and that's kind of why it appealed to me so much. Really wanted to try it out. Very glad I did. And you know, I don't know, is it only on the GT Plus you get kind of the more trick suspension, but the suspension out of the box felt great for me. You know, there wasn't too much dive under braking, it wasn't too harsh, it wasn't too bouncy. So suspension wise, that was nice. Brakes were good, up and down quick shifter were good. You know, pretty comfortable to sit on. The cockpit area was pretty comfortable. The screen was a little bit busy. I didn't get a clip of the screen when the bike was turned on, unfortunately, but the screen was like a little bit busy. But I am a fan of, like, you know, more analog clocks, so take from that what you will. Obviously, you know, more analog is my preference. So again, I'm probably a little bit biased about kind of busy digital screens. You know, that's not to say that they're not good. The only thing I didn't like about it was the power delivery, and this was something that kind of, you know, because obviously with the R9 just announced and whatnot, I have actually never really gotten a chance to ride one of the more modern Yamaha triples. I've obviously ridden the Triumph triples with the, you know, the street triple RS or whatever it was years ago I got to ride, and it was the 765, and that was an amazing bike, had power everywhere. This one doesn't. Now obviously not directly comparable to the 765, but you know, I don't know, I just feel like it was missing something pretty major down low and even in the mid-range, and then the power came on less pleasantly than it should, you know. And again, maybe this is a thing that I've kind of been spoiled by this bike. Like, we're at 4,000 revs and it just goes, you know. Now obviously this has been tuned and everything else, but this is an inline 4, so theoretically it should have less mid-range torque than a triple. You know, that's one of the benefits of the triples and whatnot, and twins, they tend to have more low down / mid-range torque than an inline 4. Obviously this has been tuned, and also, you know, from factory it was tuned for more mid-range, so maybe that's an unfair comparison, or maybe I've just been spoiled by how nice this Z900RS is for me now. Again, I was comparing the bikes I was riding mainly to my V-Strom, because I think both the Tenere 700 and the Tracer 900 GT Plus would, or Tracer 9 GT Plus would be the replacement for a V-Strom more so than anything else if I was to ever change it. So that's kind of what I had in my head. And definitely the Tenere, if I had a use case for it, I could see myself changing. Like if I was doing a lot of gravel roads and stuff, yeah, sure, I could see myself changing for that. But the Tracer 9 GT Plus for the V-Strom, not a chance, no way. The power delivery just did not feel the way I would want it, say on like a triple street bike. There was just not enough down low. Now maybe that is because of emissions, and you know, maybe it does need a tune off the bat and whatever else, like so many modern bikes do these days, to make them feel like, you know, how the engineers really wanted them to. I think that's just a kind of a common thing that, you know, most people go ahead and, not most, but a large percentage of people tune their bikes. Much more people tune their bikes than tune their cars, we'll put it that way. But like the Tracer, for instance, didn't do that. Not even close to doing that. This thing just goes, and I love it for it. I absolutely love it for it. You know, this bike has worked out so well. All the changes I've made, I've been lucky that they've all actually worked out the way I wanted them to, which doesn't always happen, and that's something you have to be aware of when you are modifying a bike, that, you know, sometimes you're going to do something and you don't like it. I would not see myself gambling on the Tracer 9. There was just too much I didn't like about how it reacted to two throttle inputs that I don't think I'd gamble on it. Whereas when I test rode a Z900RS years ago, and there's a very successful video on the channel from that as well, thanks Freeman Motorcycles for letting me ride that bike. You know, that's something that I knew there was something I'd like to change on it. For instance, like I knew even in that video saying, okay, I'd like to tune this for the throttle, because the throttle was a bit, yeah. Now the throttle is lovely, you know, on this one, because it has been tuned. I don't know, is there enough that you can do to fix what I don't like about the Tracer? So that, you know, that was, I mean, it wasn't disappointing, because obviously I hadn't been planning on buying one. It was just one of the bikes that I would consider was I to change bike. So, you know, that's kind of where my mind was at with this. Is like, you know, if I don't like this, I don't like it, it's no big deal. And I didn't really like it, it's not for me. But that was you know, a really nice eye-opening thing. And like I said, maybe I'm wrong, maybe someone will comment here and say, well, actually I did you know, I actually did tune my Tracer 9 GT Plus and it was lovely. And then maybe, fair enough, I'd try something like that. But definitely at the moment, no, I wouldn't see myself buying one unless I did research and found, you know, that there was a really good way to fix what I see as shortcomings right now of the bike. That said, we only had the opportunity to ride 2 bikes. I really wanted to try an R7, so I've never gotten to ride one, but unfortunately it was booked up before me every time. And you're only allowed 2 bikes a day. Well, we were only allowed 2 bikes today on the demo day. So that's just how life is sometimes. And, you know, the nice thing about that is, and why it's so important that Yamaha, you know, are able to continue to do these demo days. So massive thank you, number one, to Yamaha for putting on a demo day, and also to Capital Powersports for hosting it. I'm sure there's benefits for everyone involved here, but I mean, they don't have to do that. They can just not let people test ride or drive things. And I think that's a huge loss to the industry at whole, that people can't test drive things, because I love Yamaha. You know, I've always loved Yamaha. Like, I've wanted an R1 forever. My FZ6S2 remains the bike I've owned the longest. And, you know, if I had the opportunity to buy my S2 back, I would. I absolutely loved that FZ6S2. Should have never sold it, but I did. And I've always been looking about, you know, what's my next Yamaha since. And unfortunately, because the Tenere 700 was not available, the T7 was not available when I moved over here, just in stores around the place. And I wanted a bike pretty quick. Bit of braking up the hill. That was nice. You know, I ended up with the V-Strom, which I love. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Suzuki as well. And, you know, and obviously Kawasaki. I like all the Japanese manufacturers. But Yamaha does, oddly, remain my favorite. Even though it's also the only Japanese manufacturer that I currently do not own. Such is life. That's just the way it works out sometimes. But it is so important to be able to do those type of tests and you know, and try out these bikes. And I was lucky enough in the past to have people like Franklin Motorcycles and Freeman Motorcycles let me ride their bikes and do videos on them, because that not only helped me, you know, that helped you at home, especially taller riders, heavier riders. You know, I really loved being able to do that, because I you know, from what people have messaged me, it helped them make decisions. And, you know, 99% of the time, I don't think I've actually ever had a negative message that someone is like, oh, it didn't work out. You know, people are like, you were right, this is exactly how it felt, and thank you so much for making the video, which was really nice. And maybe one day I'll have the opportunity to make review videos like that again. So, you know, maybe if it's something that you want to see, then message your local dealer if you're around the Raleigh area, and see would they be interested. You know, the more words I get behind that idea, the more likely it is to happen. And I'll also start sending out more messages to people, because it's something that I have not done and I probably should have been doing. So I'll do that. I will make more of an effort to find someone to lend me bikes to do reviews on. And yeah, so that's it. Like I said, big thanks to Yamaha for doing the demo day. Big thanks to Capital Powersports for hosting it. It was great seeing all the bikes. I probably need to ride over to dealers more often just to walk around and look. You know, really nice area. You know, they're obviously limited to what they can do on the test route, but that's nobody's fault. It's just kind of the roads around cities tend to not be the most fun. But it was a pretty good test route. You got to, you know, get a feel for the comfort, get a feel for the brakes, suspension, the really important things that you kind of want to know before you get a bike. And that's why, you know, it was so nice to be able to do that. Because for me, you know, if a bike is like lacking in suspension or brakes or whatever, that's generally fixable, whether it be brake lines or different brake pad compound. However, when it's the engine and you really just don't like how the engine delivers power, you know, then that bike probably isn't for you, and it's a good thing to be able to test that and, you know, not go ahead and buy it, because that's a much harder proposition to fix. Anyway, yeah, so really nice to do it. Really nice to see everyone I know there who has bikes. It was great to talk to people. And yeah, hopefully this video was somewhat useful for you. If you enjoyed it, thanks for accompanying me on my ride home. We're nearly at Clayton now. And yeah, until next time, if you watched, thank you very much for watching. As always, a very special thank you to all of my patrons. I do really appreciate your support, and I'm back to saving again after buying SV650 stuff, so all patron money is being saved for the next project, as is all the YouTube ads revenue money. I spent all of it on the S3650. It's gone now, so we're back to saving. And yeah, if you've any questions on either of the bikes I rode from a tall rider's perspective, please drop them in the comments. I will answer what I can. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Adios. Outro crew. Have you ever ridden a, you know, T7, or have you ever ridden one of the MT-09 or a Tracer 9, or, you know, what have you ridden with that triple, and what did you think? Because, you know, talking to one or two people there, they actually agreed with me that it did feel a little bit flat or something. You know, and the power does come. It's not a slow bike by any means, but it's just, it's missing something, is how I felt, you know. So have you ever ridden any of the Yamaha triples, and what did you think? Let me know. Bye, outro crew.